So we've finished questions. We've had the team work on the amendments, which is good. And we've got, yep, so conflicted. Okay, so can everyone see that on the screen? That's the amendment. So if that fails, then we go back to the original that was proposed. So is everyone clear on that?
Sorry,
Oh yeah, so if that, I couldn't tell if you were joking. If that fails, we go back to the original. Yep. Okay, so what would, do you want, you can ask a question if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering what the rationale for this amendment is. Yeah, I want to hear it again.
Well, let's just, it's all right, we don't need to have a big, yeah. So Phil's going to mention something, then we're going to put it to the vote. Then.
More or less, so again, we've heard from businesses, property owners in that area, not all of them, that they don't want the street done yet. And I want to make it clear in the decision today, whether or not we do it, we do or we don't. At least we'll have a final decision. I think this is just noting the detailed design for that part of the west part of Litchfield Street. Will not start until the program's been reviewed, part of the long-term plan. But it will not stop the rest of it. It will not have to go back, correct me if I'm wrong, to the hearings panel, because the last thing I want to do is stuff that up and hold anything up there, because we've got to get on with it, because there's a lot of work to do to get it finished. That's the bit. It's amazing how the whole right round the whole shebang is such a large bit. This is such a small bit, and it's been the problem child.
I just wanted to raise a point of order, actually, because we did not hear that businesses wanted this to be delayed, and the staff would agree with that. Well, that he's said something incorrect.
I think that's a debatable matter. So let's just put this to the vote. Well, yeah. So just who you directing the question
So
to?
Lynette.
So Lynette, can you come to the table?
So
just let her come to the table. So.
Yeah. So if this amendment passed, would it change the fact that Litchfield Street was going ahead? So the amendment is only on when we do detailed design. It's not on construction. So it would still give certainty to everyone that Litchfield Street was going ahead. Is that right?
So the amendment is proposing to put on hold the construction of Litchfield Street West. So we wouldn't start any work, including the detailed design, until the new programming for it had been determined as part of the LTP process.
Okay, so there's the potential for this amendment to actually defer Litchfield Street until after Te Kaha had opened, even if we didn't get on with it now. So there's the potential in this amendment to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Right.
Andre. I'd really like to just put this to a vote so we can get to it. Is it a quick question? Okay.
So some businesses have told you that they'd prefer that work on Litchfield Street doesn't start till after the stadium's built.
I've heard from a number, and you'll probably know who they are, of businesses. There are some businesses down here there who really want it.
I don't know. I don't know who they are. But
there's some. Sorry, what's the question again?
So there's businesses that don't want work on Litchfield Street to start until after the stadium's built. I'm trying to.
My view is build all the stuff around the stadium, put this on hold until the stadium's built, and we see if we absolutely need it. We might be thinking way outside the square and maybe designing something that's not absolutely necessary on the road that is in very good shape compared to a lot of the other ones over in the east. So I just want to put the brakes on that bit of it. The rest of it has got to carry on. It's very important.
Okay, so let's just... Right, Melanie.
I'm just trying to establish which businesses don't want Litchfield Street to go ahead.
No. Can we just stop? I think a question's been asked, an answer's been given. So I think the staff can probably leave the table now as well. So thank you. That's great. So let's put the amendment to a vote, and we're probably best to do a division.
Can we, Sam, before the amendment,
yeah.
we want to do one debate on everything and then put the amendment so that we can actually...
Is everyone happy with that? I'm happy if people want to just debate it. I mean, it's splitting hairs, but... if, or you could chair it if you want, Sarah. But yeah. So does it? I'm just trying to. What I'm trying to do is get some consensus around the table on a constructive way forward. So if everyone would like to debate it once now, we can do that. Or if you'd like to debate it at the end, we can do that before we vote on the final thing. What would people prefer? Sarah's saying she'd like to vote on it, debate on it now.
Yep.
Great. Okay.
Vote
So
on it.
let's. So, well, just deep breaths, Melanie. It's okay. Right. So Melanie will start it, and we'll start the timer.
Point of clarity, just for my benefit, are we having one debate though? But
We are.
Yeah.
In which case, you able to explain where we go after that amendment and what the process
Yep.
is?
So as I mentioned at the beginning, if this fails, then we have the one that Melanie. Basically, if this fails, it gets kicked out altogether, and we go back to what Melanie and Mark have moved and seconded, which is the hearings panel recommendation.
Which is option
Great. So
3.
Melanie's going to start.
Yeah, like I said before, this has been a really long process, and I think the whole purpose of the decision that we've got today is to look at the stadium, which is obviously an asset in the central city. You know, I'm not the world's biggest fan of it, but I see that there's a vision that goes along with that stadium, and it's to have streets that are around it that invite people to it, create a safe space for people to be at, and not only during the time when we have events, but also from day to day. Litchfield Street's obviously the most contentious part of this. It's what we've talked about almost consecutively. And it's the businesses along that street, from what we heard, more businesses were actually happy for this to go ahead, option 1, which was the one way, but this one I'm sure that they'll be happy with as well. And we did not hear actually that any businesses wanted a delay on this. The main thing that they were concerned about, like all businesses are when work happens in streets, is for the construction to not disturb their business from day to day from occurring. And we and staff are happy to work with them around that, and also to give them some time, hopefully, where they can have free space, or how to work out when they can use the space outside on the street for their businesses as well. It'll benefit everyone to have a wonderful streetscape that's got trees and the rain gardens that have multiple benefits for it to be safe for people to be cycling, to be walking, and to have cars that will still be able to travel in both directions. I think we've come up with a brilliant result that was different to what was consulted on, but is a combination of what people talk to us about. It takes into account the mobility issues people talked about, and space for loading zones for the businesses there. It's just think about the vision of the city in the future. Do we want to have one street that hasn't been done because people don't want to spend the money on it now because they want hospitality to actually be in another part of the city, and to deprive the businesses in this area of the business that they deserve? So.
Thanks, Sam. So, Phil, with the greatest of respect, I'm struggling to see why a person who made his name on Let's Get Stuff Done is now saying let's get stuff delayed, right? Like, we've worked hard on this. We have listened. We adjusted. Time is money, and to add time is to add money. The overwhelming volume of submissions supported an upgrade of Litchfield Street, and Litchfield Street is a tiny part of a project that has to be done if we don't want to be a laughing stock. I think the recommended option will be a game changer for the games we want to see, because our champion Crusaders will be championed by our champion city in a champion environment, and I think that's champion.
Look, first of all, I really, really want to express my thanks to the hearings panel that really took this one on their shoulders. I know it was a toughie, and like I think you said, you met 6 times, and it was very high media profile. It was a real big one. So thank you for all the work that you've put into that. And I know that there was division on the hearings panel at the beginning, and a lot of you favoured option 1. And I think coming back with option 3 as a compromise or an agreed position probably took a lot of work to get there. And Melanie, all credit to you for your chairing of that. I think you've done very well there. And we have increased the budget and size of the stadium. We've got to get this right. We've got to get it looking good and performing well. And part of the street stuff is actually safety for egress of the stadium. So 30,000 people pouring out at the same time. Our streets need to be safe and they need to look really good. So I agree. I think it'll never be cheaper to do this, and I'm sure that street will have to be done in the not too near future anyway, Phil. So while I appreciate your sentiment and trying to save some money here, I'll be supporting the hearings panel recommendation, and I'm sorry that you feel we're dicking you around, but I think you've come back with option 3. I'll be supporting option 3, and I really do hope the rest of you see sense and support option 3, and let's get this thing moving. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you for your words there, Pauline. It was an arduous process, this hearings panel. Look back at it and think, well, was it enjoyable? I think it was in the end. But, I mean, I'm very proud of what we've come up with. We listened well to those that came and spoke to us and submitted. A lot of the submitters were saying, look, let's just get on and do this. We've got this stadium about to land in the middle of our city, which is another jewel in our crown, and we've got one chance to get this right and one chance to have it ready for occupation to and from this. And we've got the opportunity here to decide today to put it on track to give us what we need for, I think, pretty much everyone. And the fact that, you know, we've got the best of all worlds here in what's being proposed. And I'm hoping that those that came and spoke to us are happy with what we've come up with, because we've listened well to what they said. And the fact that we've got a two-way pedestrian-friendly option on the final approaches to our magnificent new stadium is a huge win. And to do this work later, once the stadium has opened, I think would be a huge mistake, because we've got one chance to get a really good impact with this stadium and to give everyone the premium opportunity to get to and from this stadium, and putting some roadworks in there after it's opened to then upgrade the street for Litchfield Street, I think would be a huge mistake. So I really would urge my colleagues in the council here to show some faith in the hard work that we did as a hearings panel and show some real vision for the city, because we need to land this well today so that we can get everything on track, ready for the opening of that jewel in our crown, and give everybody the premium experience that from day one when they come to and from that stadium. Please get it on board, give us the tick of approval to get moving on this, and let's get underway and not procrastinate longer.
Thank you. Look, we've heard this project will actually pay for itself over the long run. I think based off the initial figures we've received from Venues Otatahi, I worked out that in about 12 and a half years, where that's factoring in subsidies for underground infrastructure, we've essentially we've got a project that pays for itself. And then I also think, well, not only that, but why would we spend almost $750 million and then not spend a little bit to enable safe and proper access to our crown jewel? I think it's penny wise and pound foolish. So my preference initially would have been to go with option 1, which was the overwhelmingly publicly favoured option. But I really respect the work that the panel's done, and I'm more than happy to support them and their option to go with option 3. Again, I say thanks to the whole panel. As Pauline said, I know it would have been a difficult and a tough process. Thanks again to Melanie. You always tend to get landed with the politically challenging and controversial subjects, which is really just a sign of what your colleagues think about you, positively, not negatively, I must say. Again, I say thanks, and again, I also agree with the Mayor's words, if not his amendment, and I think we should get on and give this project certainty here and today. So thanks again, let's get it done, and let's actually save some money.
Kia ora. I have some sympathy for your amendment, Mayor Phil. I think largely it's been driven by concerns around costs, but I do think that there's greater merit in progressing the package as a whole, and as I think Pauline has said, that it'll never be cheaper to progress this piece of work. The piece that I'm really struggling with is the 10 kilometres per hour, that component of Litchfield Street. the vehicle movements around our city are very challenging as it is, and this is a recurring theme that I hear. And being a councillor, it's one of the things that people like to talk about is the central city traffic movements. That aside, I'm so excited about the Kaha project. I really am. I think there's great potential, and I recognise the need to activate the spaces in the surrounding streets. I like the reference to the crown jewel. I think it is one of our crown jewels, and similarly, like your reference, Councillor Peters, around we've got one chance to get this right. So I have great hopes for our city in this regard, and I think we're aiming to be the best event space in the country, if not the Southern Hemisphere. So the improvements to the public realm are absolutely vital to the success of this project as a whole. I really appreciate the work of the hearings panel. I concur with the comments that have been made in relation to that, and not just the hearings panel, but also the staff and the way that you have worked, particularly the way that you've worked to accommodate the concerns of the public and of the business and of the submitters. So I really applaud you for that. Unfortunately, in doing so, with option 3, we do come up with a greater expense, but that's something we're just going to have to live with. I think on balance, it is unavoidable for this project. On balance, I am minded to support the recommendation. I've really struggled with it, but I'd like to just note, please, my displeasure around the 10 kilometre an hour aspect, which again is unavoidable if we're looking for a safe pedestrian space. But I'd just like to record that. Thanks.
Sorry, is the microphone on?
Sorry.
Mike, yeah.
If we talk to the public or do a consultation, if we get 4,000 submissions, it means we've heard from 1% of the population, and of users of this stadium, miles less than that when you consider a lot of users will come from outside of Canterbury and even from overseas. So saying that we've got overwhelming support for anything is quite a stretch of the imagination. Access to events is a key part of an experience, and anyone here that's been to anywhere in the world and gone to a particular event and getting in and out is not much fun. It kind of leaves a bit of a sour taste in your mouth. If we get this wrong and we don't get and we assume everyone's going down, well, a big chunk are going down Litchfield Street and they're going to use the buses and going to use the car parks and all that, and it takes them an hour and a half to get home back to St Albans, when they could have probably walked by then, but we know people are too lazy to do that, so they will try and drive or use a bus or something. If that's a bad experience, it will harm Te Kaha. It will not help. Yes, the streets immediately around it have to be fantastic and usable and accessible, but do I have confidence in what we're doing here? No, I don't. I don't actually have confidence in our planning, how people get to and from the stadium. The immediate paths around the stadium, I do have confidence in. I like that design and what we're doing there, and there's some really good aspects to it. Litchfield Street, I support Phil. That doesn't need doing. Most people, and I'm more than happy to take a wager if anyone, I believe will be going down Cashel. It will have the numbers over Litchfield. I can almost guarantee you that. And so that's already done. And so I think we should get the essential work done now and not spend that money on Litchfield. We should take a wait and see approach, because I think at best it'll be a tara to make any minor changes based on people's behaviours. So this was an arduous and contentious decision and, hearings panel, and you might want to stop and think for a minute why that might be. Sometimes, and our survey results tell us every single year, there's a lot of people in this city don't have confidence and don't like the decisions we make. And we're going to do a whole lot more here, that there'll be aspects here that people don't like and don't understand. So yes, they will always be contentious. If you don't like that, don't be at this table, is the real key message there. Groan if you want, but we all put our hands up to be here. And some people, and I'll even take my hat off to Sarah here, she will often fly her flag. She was against the stadium, but she put her hand up and said that was my position, and I was happy. Oh, sorry. Oh, so you were for the stadium. Sorry, she was for the stadium. I'll take that back.
So I appreciate. So let's just stop. Aaron, that's not correct. So can you just withdraw and apologise?
So she voted for the stadium?
That's not what you
Okay.
said. Yeah. Yeah. So can you just withdraw and apologise? I'd like to move this along.
Okay, I withdraw whatever is and apologise for all of it. For misrepresenting Sarah's position. She voted against the funding increase, she voted against the funding increase that supported the stadium.
All right. We've cleared that up. So that concludes your debate. Thank you, Aaron.
Cool.
Yanni.
Well, I lost time, Sam.
No, you didn't. No.
Okay.
Aaron. Yanni, sorry.
Oh, yeah. First off, can I thank the hearing panel and the chair, Councillor Kaha, and the staff for, without doubt, our staff have worked incredibly hard to try and give us as many options as possible and to answer many, many questions that myself and others on the hearing panel have had. And I can say, without doubt, people in the city are very excited about what we're proposing to do. Even the good people in Hornby have come and said, please delay projects in our area and put your money into this central city to make it a lovely place for us to come. However, I just really struggle with the concept here. Now, putting the process and scope around Park Terrace to one side, I do believe the way in which we have used low-cost measures to change the streetscape is actually a really good way of doing things. It gives us an ability to do things in a cost-effective way and to change things based on usage and discovery. So in my view, we should not be doing the permanent now. We have enough other priorities in the city where our basic infrastructure is failing and is in a terrible condition. We've now recently discovered that the earthquake patch repairs that we had done are failing on top of the backlog of the pre-earthquake renewals that were deferred that are still required to be done. Many of those streets are in the east and are in places like Bromley, who are being overwhelmed with a number of issues. So in my view, these street upgrades we simply cannot afford. Doing reactive renewals and repairs is way more expensive than being proactive in fixing the munted streets now. Litchfield Street is not munted. It is in excellent and good condition and does not need to be gold-plated. It feels good to do the shiny and new, and of course, if you ask people if that's what they want, they're more likely to say that they do. It's like offering a Ferrari or a Fiat. Most people are probably going to choose the most expensive and the flashiest, but both will work and get the job done, and we should go for what we can afford rather than what we can't. In my view, the sensible thing to do is put in some transitional low-cost measures now, wait for the stadium to open, see how people use it, and then tailor our approach based on what happens rather than what we expect. One of my fundamental concerns with the design of this is that Cashel Street should be the pedestrian street. We've already got a pedestrian mall there, and we've got a whole bunch of people that I think are going to come in from the east where we're doing very minor sort of improvements when that could be one of the biggest challenges that we face. So, I support I support us doing a low-cost approach. And I just want to finish with a quote from Edward de Bono. He says, in the future, instead of striving to be right at a high cost, it will be more appropriate to be flexible and plural at a low cost. If you cannot accurately predict the future, then you must flexibly be prepared to deal with the various possible futures. And I think, to me, that sums up my position on this very well.
Thank you. Te Kaha Streets project is going to not only make the area around Te Kaha Streets more inviting, more welcoming, and more effective for the stadium when it opens, but it's going to be a new neighbourhood. So there's going to be nearly 1,000 dwellings, so over 1,000 people living in this area. And making sure that we revitalise the city, as we have promised to do, is going to be of a benefit for everyone who is living in the area day to day, all day, and not just for the few times a month or a week that the stadium is opened. This is a project that is not simply for the stadium and for sports and concerts. And yes, the businesses who are in Litchfield Street were in majority in support of this project. Those who were concerned, it was because they were worried about the construction period, and they were worried about the time that would be taken away with roadworks outside their business. The one thing that they said super, super clearly to us, don't do it twice. You're going to have to come down, you're going to have to dig up those pipes to make sure that the stadium has a water supply and that it can get the wastewater away. but please do not come back again and upgrade it, because that will impact our businesses twice. Businesses in other parts of the city expressed concern, and I understand that. There's a fear that with a rebuilding city that we won't have the population, or we won't have the mojo, if you like, to bring enough people into the central city to cater for more businesses. So businesses in other parts of the city where we already have a really high quality public investment, along Cashel Mall, along Riverside, where businesses are thriving, they are worried that if we do the same in another part of the city, it will dent their share of the pie. But what we are doing is growing the pie. We know that when people come back into a revitalised city, that Te Kaha is there, that we've got more people living in the East Frame, these businesses will all see an uptake. It won't just be split the same pie. One thing that we hear a lot when people don't like the outcome of a consultation is that they bash the process, and that's what we've heard today. What I would say is that if you want to be involved in influencing a decision, if you want to be involved in listening to the people and making sure that things go properly, then you should involve yourself fully in the decision-making process, and not bash your colleagues constantly and call them predetermined. I'll note that on your social media you did, Councillor Kewen, say that if the hearings panel came back... Oh, bugger!
I move an extension of time.
Yeah, declined. Andre? Yeah.
Thank you. The key thing we've heard for the stadium for a long time now is get on with it. I don't think people are keen to see us rip up the roads to do necessary water work now and then rip the roads up again in a few more years, which will cost more and cause a massive amount of disruption to businesses and users of the stadium. Likewise, with delaying Litchfield Street, the waterworks have to be done anyway, so I can't see how the businesses would be keen for us to rip the roads up to do the waterworks, but then come back and wrap it up again a few years later once the stadium's open and they're trying to have their businesses activated by then. Option 3, I think, makes sense. It looks more accessible, particularly in terms of pickups and drop-offs. And if the area is activated well, there's going to be a lot of pickups and drop-offs from Ubers, particularly late at night. That does need to be an easy process. I have visited many stadiums and arenas in different parts of the world, and most of them are in a location that sucks. You leave the stadium, you walk and you walk and you walk, and it's a long time before you actually come across hospitality businesses. It may be a long time you're just walking to, it might be a train station. So to actually be in an area surrounded by hospitality businesses is going to be a different and excellent experience compared to other parts of the world. Plus, it's going to have a roof, and plus it's going to have good acoustics. We've really got something going for us here. I think we would be an international embarrassment if we open up the stadium, we've got international visitors there, we've got international media there, and they see this world-class stadium and it's surrounded by road cones and bunged up roads. I think we would look quite silly that we decided to worry about the roads around later. It's not going to give us an impression of a rebuilt city that's ready for business and ready to rear and go. I join Victoria in not being so comfortable with the 10k zone. So I would like to be able to vote against the 10 kilometres separately if I can. And overall, I do not want to be back here in several years' time still debating the stadium and its infrastructure around it. I'm keen for us to get on with it. Thank you.
I'm hearing what everyone said. It's good. The stadium is going to be a jewel in our crown. But at this point, I agree with Aaron and a number of other people that I've talked to outside here that I feel that Cashel Street's going to be the main way for pedestrians especially to get in and out of down by the terrace and walk. And, you know, there's tons and tons of room there. But anyway, I just didn't want to waste money on something, just Litchfield Street, the rest of it's great, that is not necessary at this time. But I can't, one of the other things, I can't actually see why option 3 is costing an extra 1.2 million. I struggle with that, but it is the best option and it is far better than option 1. So if mine doesn't fly, I will be backing option 3 because I'd hate to see option 1. Thank you.
You just really briefly from me, Mel. I'll support the mayor in deferring just that bit of Litchfield Street because fundamentally I don't actually see there's a problem there at the moment. But I mean, look, I think just to credit to Mel and the team, it's been a really good hearings panel. We worked together on Hagley Lights, and Mel plays it with a pretty straight bat. But fundamentally, I come back to the same thing: is a very straight bat, not a pretty straight bat, a very straight bat. But fundamentally, I come back to I couldn't live with one laning that street, so I'd settle for option 3, 2 lane. I kind of agree in terms of the cost escalation, and I won't go into it here because it's probably publicly excluded, but there are some estimates around contingencies and stuff that seemed very, very high for the little bit of work, so I'm just not yet convinced. I guess what I'd like to see is that the price come back from that. I suspect it probably can, given that some of the estimations in there are the way they are. But look, all in all, I think the hearings panel have done a very good job to get to a conclusion that is ultimately seen as the compromise. But I think, fundamentally, if Phil's fails, I would back it as well because I don't want to see that street one-wayed.
Thanks for the support and the debate from everyone. I just wanted to finish up just to note that we've got Councillor Scandra and Barber who are conflicted because Venues Otatahi submitted on this, and they are part of our council, and they will be running this this location, and they will be responsible for making sure these events run smoothly, and they wanted option 1, and option 3 is pretty close to that, and that is what as a council we should be supporting because that is what VO want, and it makes complete sense. But thank you for the debate. I think it's been very well rounded, and I will be glad to see the back of this.
Until we have to debate the budget escalation in a year's time. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll put the amendment. Oh, so 2 things. Victoria and Andre flagged the 10K an hour thing. The team have picked out the exact resolution, so we can note that for you on there. So what we'll do is, I think it's easier just. Do we want to have a division? And do you want to have a division on the amendment, or just note the 3 or 4 of us that are for it? It's probably easier. Yeah, so if we put the amendment, which is Phil's one, so all in favour of that say aye. Aye. Well, that almost sounds carried, but it's probably lost. So there's... Yeah. Yeah. So if we could put the chair of the hearings panel in favour of that. No. Okay, so against? Okay, yeah, that's lost. Great, so that's lost. Now, we'll take the collective lot now, noting that it's 178, is it?
178 is the one that
Is the 10 kilometre an hour one. So are you happy?
You can't do that, can you? You can't pick bits out and vote against
Previous advice.
Well, stop. Yeah. So maybe then, I'm not going to use the word I was going to. Let's get the legal team do it. Yes.
It's a hearings panel.
No, Pauline, just stop. We're nearly there. There's sort of a question being framed by the deputy mayor. Can they vote for that or not?
And note they're voting against 178.
Just wait. Yeah.
So they want to vote the whole lot in block, but can they note that point 178 that they want their no against that, just that one?
It's valid to be able to.
Okay.
It's contingent on the safety design. So.
Just stop. I just want to get round. I've got another question from Tyrone.
I think just on that 10, 20Ks thing, right? Like, I mean, so my comment would be that...
So there's no comments. We've done debate. This is whether, if it's a technical question, you can ask it. But if it's a debatable matter, I'm not having the question. So is it a technical question that the lawyers can answer? That sounds like a no. So let's...
Does the speed limit change the design?
Does the speed limit change the design? Yes. Great. Okay, so we're there, I think. So we're going to put that motion.
Can I?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm over it now. We have literally debated this.
I need to correct you. I didn't ask to vote against it. I said I wanted to note my displeasure.
That's all we're doing.
10K. So noting but not voting against.
So yours noting. Are you wanting to vote against it?
Okay.
Right. So we're okay. So we're against it, but we're not voting against it. So we can just note that. So let's put the motion. No. So no, seriously, guys, this is a big decision for the city. I'd like everyone to take it seriously. So we're going to put the motion. No, Aaron, sorry. All in favour? Against?
Aye.
So that's Yanni and Aaron against. And we're going to note for Victoria and Andre and Phil around the 10k speed limit. And Aaron. And Aaron?
That was Aaron, Victoria,
Yanni and Phil. And Tyrone as well.
It's done. We're done. aren't we?
So that motion is carried. Thank you very much to the hearings panel. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sam,
So
there's a number of people here were saying no to the 10k. I think that should go to a separate vote.
we've put the motion. The motion's been carried. I mean, yeah. Okay, so we are now going to close the meeting with a karakia, led by Kelly. Great, thank you. Thanks everyone online.